Recently, I've been playing through Fire Emblem Awakening on the 3DS, as I just found my handheld sitting in the closet, saw that it was already on my system, and just booted it up randomly one night out of nowhere when I couldn't sleep. And I ended up playing until 5 a.m. Yeah, I was not a happy camper the next morning, but I just couldn't help myself. Something about Awakening was just really special compared to recent entries. Not that I don't like Three Houses, go check out the video I made on that as well, but the first time I played Awakening, and this subsequent time as well, something inside me was awakened. Okay, cheesy, I know, but Chrom and Robin are such a dynamic duo and so easy to get attached to. Not to mention the marriage system within this game, and the time-traveling dynamic to alter your destinies is just such a compelling storyline. Pile on top of that the pairing system, which, yeah, was a little OP, I guess, but I just miss being able to pair a Wyvern Rider with one of my tankiest units, flying across the map, then just dropping my tank in there like a bomb in the middle of several enemy units. Kinda hard to do that within recent Fire Emblem since they got rid of the pairing mechanic, but I digress. Either way, even without considering all of that, I wanted to talk about a particular chapter within Fire Emblem Awakening that struck a chord with me more so than any other Fire Emblem chapter before or since, both within this game and the series as a whole. To those of you who've already played the game, you might be surprised by my choice. I'm talking about Chapter 10, titled Renewal. Before we start to get into the nitty-gritty with that chapter though, first we need to set the stage. See, Fire Emblem Awakening begins with you, Robin, laying in a field when you're found by the main lord of the game, Chrom and his entourage. After battling some brigands and Chrom taking you in and trusting you as one of his comrades even though you just met, Robin is taken by Chrom to see Emeryn, basically the Queen of Lies, which is the region you'll be defending throughout the game. Throughout your playthrough, you see that Emeryn is a pacifist-loving ruler and wants to avoid war at all costs. She truly is selfless, and Chrom constantly tries to remind her to think of herself sometimes. She's his sister, after all. Unfortunately, things weren't always peaceful with the Halidom of Lies, because Emeryn's and Chrom's father was somewhat of a dictator. Emphasis on the dick. He ruled with an iron fist and only sought to increase Liza's reach and power, ruining relations with Plegia in the process. So Plegia hates Liza's guts, even though Emeryn is totally different from her father. Even her own people hated her for what her father did, hurling stones and insults at her at every turn. The game does a great job of making you feel for Emeryn, because Chrom states that even through all of that abuse, Emeryn greeted hostility with warmth and patience. Sadly enough, not everyone can be won over in such a manner. Introducing Mad King Gangrel, someone the game really does a good job of making you hate at every single turn. He's the new king of Plegia and he's hell-bent on revenge, with Emeryn suffering the majority of that hatred, even if it's misplaced. He kidnaps significant political figures of Lies, wants the Fire Emblem for obvious reasons, and is just begging for Emeryn to even give him the slightest reason to launch an enormous campaign of war against her. He even tries to have her assassinated, for God's sakes. All of this comes to a head when King Gangrel has had enough and invades Lies while Chrom, Emeryn, and the rest of the party are away, trying to get Emeryn to a safer location after the assassination. Of course, Emeryn decides to return to be a beacon of light for her people through it all. But just as Chrom and crew are on their way to form an alliance with their neighboring country to prepare for war against Plegia, the news that Emeryn has been captured and is scheduled to be executed is delivered to them. This is a big moment in the plot. We know we need to go save her, and so we scramble to do so. Things come to a head in Chapter 9, with Robin quickly devising a plan to try and save her before her execution. But things play out differently than expected. Gangrel presents Chrom with a choice: give him the Fire Emblem or watch Emeryn die. Emeryn, knowing that Chrom would choose her, decides to not allow him to have to make the choice. Instead, she addresses the Plegian people, pleading with them that all war will bring is sadness and suffering, and to watch as she makes the ultimate sacrifice. After her speech, She wonders if her sacrifice will even have an impact on the Plegians because they have no reaction whatsoever to her speech.
No reaction. Was I wrong then?
But knowing that she at least has to try, she says her final goodbyes to Crom and her family before hurling herself off the execution platform to her death. All this was important to tell you about and brings us to Chapter 10. The atmosphere in this chapter is completely different. The music, gone, is the upbeat strategy-feeling music that gets you pumped up and ready to go before a battle. This time, the music that plays is a crude reminder of the heavy death that weighs heavily upon your warriors, the characters that you've begun to care about, as you prepare for the next battle. It's raining, and the piano softly playing in the background fits in perfectly with the pitter-patter of each raindrop. Once you finally steeled yourself for battle, wait a minute. This dude is offering us mercy. He doesn't want to fight. And yet he knows that can't happen. We can't just surrender to him. We have to fight and break free, to go through them. And so the song titled Don't Speak Her Name begins to play. And damn, is it one song that gives you mixed emotions. Obviously, what you're doing here is wrong. This isn't what Emran would have wanted. Even Mustafa, the commander that offers you mercy, says so himself. But Crom, literally responding with "Don't speak her name," knows that surrendering just isn't an option. And so the song evolves from one of a soft sadness to a crescendo of badassery as you steel yourself for the one battle in this game you really don't want to have. As the battle rages on, one soldier begs Mustafa for permission to abandon his post. They don't want to fight back. Emran's sacrifice wasn't in vain. But then, Mustafa doesn't have the luxury of surrendering either. He can't defy the king and abandon his post, as he knows that Mad King Gangrel would have his wife and child murdered just to set an example. And so the soldier steels his resolve. If he won't fight for his king, one thing that he will fight for is his general. This unwillingness to fight is even shown through the gameplay. The enemy unit's stats become weaker and weaker as the fight goes on, showing their unwillingness to fight. They deal less and less damage and receive that much more in turn, becoming easier and easier to cut down one by one until you make it to Mustafa. And the one thing he begs you for after cutting him down is to spare his men. All in all, what a wonderful chapter, from the music to the way the game so far has been building up to this one moment, to have the one battle that you absolutely don't want to have, to me, also makes it one of the best battles in the entire series to date. With that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to become a channel member for those pancake badges and to like and subscribe, because I'd really like to do more videos like this in the future.